Well, hello everyone. As you'll see at the heading of this review, I'm actually leaving the figure's name blank for the time being. I will change it later. It's mainly because this one's a little bit more of a surprise. I've actually finally got to more or less complete a major figure that I wanted to get all the parts for. There's a couple of niggly little bits and a couple of stickers what aren't quite right on him, but it's sort of close enough that it's one of the guys I've always wanted to review but been slowly finding the bits for. So without further ado, I shall cover the camera so it's more of a shock when I get the my hand out of the way. So excuse me for a moment. I'm still here, don't worry. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you a robot that I've wanted to get done for quite some time, and hopefully this is going to line up right so it looks good when I take my hand away. But ladies and gentlemen, I present to you G1 Overlord. Now I will move that just a little touch, just so we can try and get him all in. Now, at the moment, he is in base mode, which I would move around to show you a little bit better. I can try and move the camera a little bit to try and get that in a bit better for you. But this guy is quite large. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, there we go. Now, I would move the base, but anyone that owns this figure will know that he is pretty horrendous to actually move in base mode, and I shall demonstrate this quite aptly. If you were playing with this toy and you did that, because all of these parts are loose and they just fall about, don't connect properly. It's probably, as far as the base modes go, one of the weakest out of the G1 base formers, which is a real shame because he's a real classic great character. Now I will admit I was completely unaware of this figure until I got back into Transformers some years ago, when the first live action movie came out, which surprised the hell out of me because this is one that I would definitely have got back in the day, even though when this guy came out I was sort of more tail end of finishing collecting Transformers as a regular thing. I still picked up the odd one, but I cannot remember at all seeing this guy available in the shops. So he's a bit of a rarity. He started out as Gigatron, I believe, in the Japanese sort of toy line, and then became available in Europe. So he's a little bit of a rarer bot as well. Couple of things where I'll just show you the damage. Mine has got the obligatory broken claw on the little arm, and he's missing a little piece off of one of the radar dishes, but other than a couple of worn stickers, that's about it. So I'm very pleased with what I've managed to collect. The last piece I've been waiting on, of course, is this waste of space little grey car, but it sort of completes the set, and I do like to have them complete if I can, especially to review them. Now, as you can see, it's very vibrant colours, turquoise, blue, purple, white and grey. So there's a good selection through there, and a couple of clear sort of orange glass panels as well. Well, plastic panels, but to mimic glass. Right, without further ado, well, what do you get for your money? Well, you get two Power Masters. This is Giga, and that one up there is Mega, the white one. In the storyline, I believe it was in Victory, wasn't it? The sort of like it's a weird thing. A force comes to Earth, and I think it sort of grants a couple, like husband and wife, the powers to become Power Masters, and then gives them a body to join into, which is Overlord, but I'd say that's pretty pants. I kind of like to think, in my own mind, that Overlord was just another sort of powerful Decepticon who travelled to Nebulos or something like that, following on from where all the Headmasters and Target Masters and Power Masters went there, and wanted to be even more powerful, so had 2 Power Masters rather than the single one that everyone else has. But, you know, that's just the way I'd like to think about it. As far as a toy in base mode, you've got, like I say, you've got opposable claw arm, which has got a couple of hinging points. Not the greatest feature, but quite nice, you know, a little repair bay. You get a twin barrel gun, which I'll bring in to show you because that's removable. Now with these, again, as with any G1, you can get discoloration problems. You can also get 2 different variations in colour on these purple parts as well, which is another thing to watch out for if you're ever buying them. The Japanese and the European versions have got slightly different purples, so that's something to look out for. Another thing to look out for on this particular part is that peg. I've seen ones where they've been snapped off, and if you haven't got that peg, you're going to either have to remake it or you're not going to be able to use that part at all anyway, so not really worth picking up unless you want to do a bit of custom work on it. But anyway, so that's initially his first weapon. His second weapon, which is posing as a tower and fits into a port on the back of either side of his base mode parts via the large pegs there, is his main gun. Now this is a bit of a monster. It's more along the lines of like Metroplex's large red guns. Uses the same sort of missile as well as Metroplex, so if you're ever short of one of these missiles, you can go down that route to get one cheaper than if people think it's an Overlord one, which you'll pay more for. I was dead lucky. I managed to find this really cheap on eBay, and it even came with the missile, so it's a real bonus. But that again is another part you're going to struggle to find cheap, and also is prone to discoloration as well, so another nice accessory anyway. Now coming to his next accessory, which is a kind of, I don't know if it's a radar dish or kind of grenade launcher, something like that. Again, same problems, colour fading and that, but also these 2 little wing parts on top. You often see those where they have been snapped off, so it's another thing you've got to look out for. Just a basic hollow moulded little accessory, but pretty hard to pick up, as are the last 2 little accessories, which are a pair of sort of radar dishes. Specifically this one is a real pig to pick up complete, because as you can see all the little parts what stick out on it, including the little bit in the middle. There's so many bits there what can snap off. Finding a complete one of them is a real pain, so that's one to really sort of scrutinise if you're buying one. Now the one what I've got what's broken is there should be a little prong similar to that but sticking out for the front there. Doesn't really detract too much from it, the fact it's missing, so I kind of settled for that one. But like I say, I did shop around and wait and bide my time and actually pick these up for a reasonable price rather than spending the earth on them. But there you go, that's his other radar dish. Now as far as other purple accessories go, this is the last of the loose ones. Now this is a tank barrel, because Overlord is a, well, I say triple changer, I was going to say. He's more of a quad changer. In fact, he's got kind of 4 modes. But yeah, again, very basic, just a hollow moulded piece. Slightly colour faded. If I bring in one of the others, you'll see. I don't know if it's going to show, but it's very, very slightly paler. But again, that's because that one had a little bit of sun damage, but nothing too horrendous. But it is definitely something to look out for on them. Now, other accessories. Well, apart from little Mega as well, another Power Master. Now, I believe that's the she out of the 2. Things to look out for on these guys is obviously the limbs break off and that on Power Masters, but you also get chrome on the back. Now she is a bit chrome worn, so that should be all silver on the back there, but again it's not the end of the sort of world, the fact that they're not perfect. And I shall get Giga out of the little car, and he's a little bit better. So he's gold chrome, and again I got these really cheap. His gold chrome is pretty good, so I was quite pleased. Now weirdly enough, these only came from down the road from where I live. I found them in a lot of Micromasters of all things off of eBay and got them for very cheap money for what they go for. They're normally dealers asking in the region of about 30 to 40 quid each, which is ridiculous, but because they are a bit more of a rarity, fortunately that's, unless you're really lucky like I was, that's almost what you're going to have to plump for to buy them. Now the last piece what I was after, which I managed to find at a reasonable price as well, is a little scout car which they fit into, as you saw, in their Power Master mode only. It's okay. I mean, for what it is, it's a tiny little vehicle just to run around as the base mode set. It could have done with an alt mode, you know, to go into a robot mode, a little bit like Fast Track does for Scorpion Arc, and you've got Slammer and that for Metroplex, although he can't transform, he's part at least at the base a bit more, so he's got more than one use. But yeah, it's pretty basic, but if you want to be a bit more like myself and be a completionist with your figures, unfortunately it's something you're going to have to get. Now looking at the other side of the base, you get a fold out weapon as well, a double barrel gun. I'll give you a closer look as I take it apart. And of course you've got a double barrel gun on the tower as well. Now other parts which you're going to have to find loose if they're not with a figure when you get it are these two blue ramps, or turquoisey ramps probably is a better description of them. They do come with stickers, which luckily these ones are in good condition. They are left and right handed, so you need to get the right one because otherwise they're not going to fit on your figure. So that's something you've got to make sure you get the right hand for the ones you need, or at least buy them as a pair. Now once they're removed, the last piece, which is a loose piece, is this guy. Now this is a major pain to get. Now again, I was really lucky, I shopped around and waited until one popped up cheap. It is literally just a little ramp what hooks on at the top, but that centre ramp I've seen people asking 40 quid for, and it is not worth that, trust me. It is just a little tiny ramp what does that, and that's it. So shop around. I mean, if you see one and going for spare parts in amongst another lot, then snap it up, because at least if you haven't got Overlord, you can sort of like at least keep it by in case you ever get one, or at the very least you could always make a few quid off it and sell it to somebody who needs one. But anyway, all that aside, that's basically you're left with these three main parts for the base mode. Now strangely enough, for a base mode transformer from G1 era, he has not got a launching mechanism. Where he has that middle ramp down the front, it does not launch the little grey car, and to be honest, the little grey car, if I'd lift the ramp up, is a very tight fit on that ramp, and certainly isn't small enough to fit down properly on these little grey ones. So I would say, although the car is nice to have, you'd be just as well to play with this with Micromasters. They have probably a better fit, certainly down the ramps and stuff like that. But yeah, very strange that it doesn't have a launching mechanism, because when you consider Tripticon does, you've got Scorponok does, Metroplex does, and I think a few of the other Micromaster bases have a kind of mechanism to either launch them, or a little bit more designed around the fact that they fire off a Micromaster in one way or another. Even Sky Gary's got the, I think the launchers inside the little truck containers as well. So yeah, a little bit odd in that way that they didn't go down that same route, but you can kind of forgive it. It's not sort of like this mode really so much that you buy an Overlord for. Now getting to the transformation side of things. Now you've got your first side of the base, which I suppose from our point of view would be the left hand side. To transform it to its first mode, you've got to close up the ramp. You fold up the gun and tuck that in. You then fold the grey piece over the top, and then you bring the white piece back over the top. Now that forms the left side of his tank mode, which again has some sticker applications on it. Like I say, there may well be some stickers missing or damaged on this guy, so you have to forgive me on that. One day I will get round, if Repla Labels even do a set for this fella, to get him completely renovated. Again, same kind of thing. Fold up the claw and put that away. Fold up the ramp, bring that over and bring over the top. Now it's at this point, when you're connecting these two together, that you need to get the tank barrel, because you can't get it in afterwards, so you've got to just hook it into the little holes in the front, and with a bit of dexterity you can sort of line it up slightly first, pop that in there, and you should be able to just snap it shut. Now where Giga and Mega come into in this is to release that for the transformation to the robot mode or the base mode. You need to plug in either Giga or Mega into the socket on top for the Power Masters. Now I can quickly show you that by just getting Mega, plug them in the top, and all they're effectively doing is, if you ever haven't seen the Power Master before, you've got two little round spots on their legs, about where their knees would be. There's two buttons there, so effectively all any of the Power Masters do is to depress. They clip in and depress those buttons, and it just allows you to pull it apart. Now we'll leave her in there, try and get that gun just pop back in. Like I say, it is a little bit of a fiddly thing. You can open the orange cockpit and put one of the Power Masters in, but again this is a little bit strange because it would have been nice if these Power Masters had a little hinge at the waist, but unfortunately when they're in something like that they've got to lay down, so it's a napping place for a tank compartment, you know, go in there and have a kip. But all in all, it's a pretty good tank mode. It does not revolve on the turret, which is a real shame. That would have been lovely. Quite basic moulding. Like I say, there's reasonable. There's more to the turret and the actual top of the tank. I mean, the treads and the wheels are done reasonably well, but quite basic. But again, very nice. Along the lines again, something like an A1 Abrams sort of tank. You can take out Mega if you can get hold of her. And this is the other thing where Power Masters can be a real pain. It's better to push on one end of them to push the clip at the other to then lift them up if you're ever struggling to get one out. Now one other feature this has got, there is another hole in that compartment there, so you can put in one of the other weapons, so it can either be, say like the, if it will let me, either the double barreled gun looks quite good, or you can go the other way and put in like the grenade launcher one, which actually is a better fit. And also the double barrel gun does kind of look better in the other mode, which I'll show you in a sec. Now, taking now the main part of the base mode, the tower. Now this is inherently unstable, which is another feature where it's awful. in the base mode and constantly will try and rock as you try and do anything to it and the ramps fall off, because it's only balanced on 3 little wheels, that one there and these 2 here. Not a brilliant design. They'd have been better having some kind of more solid socket come down, or something at least what connects to the ground a little bit better. But in saying all that, it does make a great alt mode when it transforms. Now you fold up the guns. I'll leave that bit for the minute because there's something, it's a bit more obvious what it transforms into. Pop in the fists, close up these black sections, and you can see that's where I'm minus a couple of stickers there, a little bit worn. You then bring the arms down and then you bring this whole black section. Now it does detach and can detach, and I'll show you why in a moment. It may well be I need my, that's it, you need to lift it slightly just to release it. I was thinking it was the Power Master, but it's not. You just need to pull that up and let that come down, push it back, and then for the last piece turn that round. And what you end up with, once you've sorted out all these little nose cone parts and wings what fold out, is a pretty fantastic jet mode. Now you can position the wings and sort of like tail fairings however you like. I kind of like it that way. Kind of reminiscent of a Blackbird. Very nice alt mode. As I said, there is a position, same thing with a Power Master port, that you can pop the purple gun in there and it kind of works better. If you add the other things, they stick up too high. So that looks the best in this mode. You've got 2 cockpits, so you've got the original one, what was the tower mode, which opens just on a little clip, and you can put a Power Master inside there. You've also got an opening cockpit at the front, but again they've got a lay in it, which is what I was saying, it would have been quite nice if they'd have made these Power Masters to actually bend at the actual waist, so you could actually get them to sort of sit up a little bit. But again, it kind of works to a fashion. If I get Giga out of there, so you just pop them in like so, and then you can close it up. Not brilliant, but again, it's okay. Now, another little feature it's got, it does have a little landing wheel there, but if you notice, that's nowhere near the ground. Now the reasoning for that is, as you saw earlier when I was trying to do this, you can pop that section right off. Now you can do it in base mode, but it kind of takes away like the main part of the tower, so it looks a little bit pants. But that in itself becomes a little jet in its own right. So again, quite a nice little feature. It's something else that they've allowed a little bit of playability into it. So a bit like Star Saber, in the fact that there's a smaller jet and then a bigger, almost base section what can follow on. Now I have seen, although it doesn't work fantastically, there is a combination mode between these two. Now it's in the cartoon, and it sort of involves the tank basically ramming the plane up the backside and becoming one larger flying vehicle like that. Now you can't do it the way it looks in the cartoon, but you can do something similar. If you fold out the back landing gear, you can, although it becomes unstable, separate the 2 tank sections. I'll just do it for quickness with pressing the buttons myself. Now, it's, like I say, a little bit temperamental. I'll just get that part off camera. There we go. These pegs and that are a real pest, but it's that part there what is the release part. So as you press the button, you see how it works, and it unhooks from these sections. but those pegs are quite tight. That's the bit actually what is more of a struggle than actually doing the top release. Now getting to the actual combined mode, that can be a flying joined vehicle, is basically slotting the tank sections onto those rear sections like that. Now again, not exactly the most convincing mode, hugely cumbersome, but it's kind of what happens in the cartoon. It's a bit naff, but at least it sort of like gives it yet another sort of mode, if you like. But it does lead on quite nicely when you do that to the actual transformation mode for its robot mode. Now another component that you will require if you buy yourself an Overlord, and it's probably one of the most essential parts that you'll ever need to get for this guy, is very cheap, and it's basically one of these, because when he transforms you can forget the ramp, because you'll have no further use for it. You can forget the radar dish. No, you won't need that. You can forget the tank barrel, the car, and the radar dishes pretty much. So what you're left with is 2 guns, 2 power masters, and 2 shin guards, which are the ramps. Now transforming him to his robot mode. Now going back to his jet mode, pop off the small jet. You don't need that for his robot mode, but it is part of his robot mode as an accessory, if you like. You then need to lift him up and turn him around. Now at this point these are on the wrong sides, so you have to pop them back off and at this point it's a good point to push out his toes. Okay, now at this point that one, what was on that side, now needs to go to that side to become his right leg, and vice versa. So again, sliding out the foot, just push it out and push it on the socket at the top, and there you go. All you can see is his waist, because this guy is at least a leader class figure. Now if I can get the camera up a bit, there we go, so you can see him again. Now you've got the basis of the figure straight away. Transformation wise, there ain't a lot going on there. Now to transform him further, fold back all his wings and everything back out of the way. You can then turn his arms forward. Unfortunately, because of all the transformation and wings and such, there are no elbow joints, which is a real pain. Again, they could have done a straight bit and had a separate hinged part for his forearm, would have kind of helped. Basic G1 style fist, where you got a little peg to help pull it out, and the same on that side. You can have the nose cones stay up. That's how he looks in his robot form in, say, like all the cartoons, and also in the, say, like the IDW comics and that, which this guy's has been in. Never made it to the G1 comics as far as I'm aware, which again is a shame, but I think it kind of came on too late to actually make an appearance. Now this is the point where you need to get the right shin guard for the right position. Now as you can see, there's a socket on that one and a peg at the bottom, and you've got a peg and socket there, so they marry up together and fit on like so, and then vice versa on there. You cannot do it the other way round because it just won't work. So you pop those on, and again that makes his legs look a little bit more finished, a little bit more tidier. Now with the fists, now they do hold the radar dishes, but of course that kind of don't work in this mode, so it's better if it had been possible to have stuck this gun in here. It doesn't work on there, but it will fit on his arm, so you can have it as an arm cannon. Sort of works. His big gun, however, of course, is designed for his fist, and that will go straight in and is lovely. That's great. Now, getting to the jet, again, in this mode there is a socket there, and these are the posts which it fits to. These are again a very delicate part. They're like a double springing sort of clip either side of the post. I've seen quite a lot of those snaps, so it is quite an important thing to be careful when you're putting it on, even if to the point of not pushing it right on and clipping it, because it will make it that little bit easier to get it back off. But that becomes his arm shield. Now I did come up with a couple of other places to put little bits, like his tank barrel will just about hold if you put it in that hole, but that I'd sort of used it that way up until I got the gun, which when you've got the two it kind of again doesn't work, and that gun would get in the way of this gun as well, so it's a little bit of a pain. It would have been quite nice if his legs had been a bit more hollow. You could have put some more of his accessories into there for storage, but unfortunately again they're too big to actually fit inside. Either that, or if they'd have made it the compartments in the jet mode a little bit bigger to put some bits in. Downsides aside, his real sort of fun factor is you can open up his chest compartments, and you often see this guy with them folded out like so, which immediately, pop his gun back in, immediately restricts his arm movement, so he can't lift his arms. But you take Giga and Mega and you pop those into his chest like so, and you get another weapon which springs out. So that, unfortunately you probably didn't see that too well because of my hand. So what it does is basically when you push that in, it releases the gun out front. I'll try and do Mega over the top of his head so that you can see what happens then. As you do that and pop her into position, you get sprung loaded cannons pop out on his left side of his abdomen. Again, nice little features, a little bit of play value, almost like a powered up mode, but it's a bit of an anticlimax. It would have been quite nice if, I know at this stage they'd sort of phased out doing a lot of electronics, but maybe some light up eyes or a sort of like a noise, something like that would have been quite good. I mean, it wasn't beyond them to do that sort of thing in the G1 era. Triptychon could walk, so could a Mega Supreme to a fashion. So I don't know, it would have been quite nice. Let's just say if there'd been at least an explosion noise or something like that. Now you can just about push these round and have them like that to at least allow his arm movement once they're in, but like I say, it's not ideal. If you're buying one of these guys, you want to look out obviously that they've got these, but don't be surprised to see it advertised with it shut like that. And at least if it is shown with pictures like that, these chest stickers are obviously quite important for showing detail, and you don't need to have them plugged in. There's plenty of compartments. You've got 3 compartments you can put Giga and Mega into to get them out of the way while it's in robot mode, and of course then you can tuck all of these bits back in and it makes them a little bit neater as well. Now I'll give you a quick 360 if this orange hatch ever stays shut. Now a lot of things, like I say, discoloration is a major factor on this guy, as it is with most G1s. Obviously scratching and damage, but certainly the light grey and the white on the underside of the jet can be major factors what will discolour. The purple is another prime example. Triptychon suffers greatly in the same way. But all in all, here's a fantastic figure. One of the ones that I've been longing to finish. Give you a little idea with scale. What can we use? Well, I've got Scorch. For those that know your G1, G2 figures, you've got Scorch there. There's a figure comparison. Something a bit more modern, which I managed to get. So I'm sure many people on the YouTube community got recently. I got Well. Now these are deluxe stroke Voyager size, so probably going on the Voyager, I believe they are. But as you can see, he's not really quite up to his crutch. A real classic figure to put in the mix there. Well, this is a G2, but a G1 Prime mould. Again, Prime would have had some real issues fighting him at that point, but of course this guy was up against Star Saber and the likes of Super Jinrai, which of course is Power Master Prime. Let me think, anything else that I could put it against. I could show you again one of the G2, or coloration anyway, but G1 combiner bots. Now when you consider that Swindle who makes up part of Bruticus, so if you imagine he's Bruticus's leg, that does give you a scale idea of how big Bruticus is against this fella. Again, he's leader class, if not bigger than Masterpiece, certainly these days where the Masterpieces have got smaller. So would fit in fantastically in any Masterpiece lineup. But an absolute favourite of mine. Like I say, a figure I was not as aware of up until the recent years where Transformers made a comeback. But certainly one of my favourites, and a really nice evil character in the cartoons as well. Really sort of a sadistic sort of so-and-so. So I kind of like that. I don't know why. Maybe that says more about me than it does about the character, but there you go. But yeah, everything about it is a fantastic brick. Like I say, that is a real pain in the neck. There probably should be slightly bit of a clip on there, which again is probably going to be a blue tack case, because as you move it, it flops open. But that pretty much sums up this figure. It is a major pain, but on the plus side, it is also a fantastic figure. He does have head articulation. I should just go through those bits. Head articulation, you got 360 as long as he hasn't got his chest open on the arms. I won't bother whizzing them around. Obviously you've got hip articulation because these bits move, so you could sit him down, and that's about as best you're going to get. There are no knee articulation because of course it's all solid. Elbow articulation, as I said, is a no-no. There's no, obviously, hand articulation. They never did stuff like that back in the G1 era anyway. So pretty basic. He's a brick. But, of course, back in those days we used our imagination. We didn't need to have it in all kinds of weird and wonderful poses. It was good enough just to be what it was, which is a fantastic toy. So, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Sorry if I've had to rush through. I didn't want to take forever on this one, but it's a real G1 victory. It's a real sort of bot to buy. I would say if you're a real Transformer fan, it's more of a must-have. Downside to that is, of course, is the fact that this guy's so hard to pick up complete unless you're going to fork out a major amount of money. But a real die-hard fan, you love this, especially if you're into your G1s. This is a real sort of treasure. This guy goes alongside Fort Max, although obviously scale-wise he's out of his league, but Fort Max, Tripticon, Scorponok, if you love those guys, you will absolutely love this. Anyway, while I geek out, just even more so the fact that I finally got this damn thing finished. I'll just say thanks for watching. and I hope you've enjoyed the review as much as I have actually finishing this guy off. And I shall see you again for another Transformers review. Thanks for watching.